Hi, and welcome back to Own the Mirror, a space where faith and mindset come together, and we challenge ourselves to see beyond what is. I'm Deetra, the author of Mindset of Me, I See Fishes, and this is where we get honest, intentional, and aligned with purpose. So let's get into today's conversation. Good morning and welcome back to Own the Mirror podcast, where today we're talking about overthinking, and we're going to stop that and start executing. So let me ask you something before we get started. How many times have you thought about something, you've actually committed to a plan, you've replayed that plan over and over again, and then you've talked yourself through it, but you still didn't do it? How many of you? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. So it's not that we don't understand what it is we planned, because it's our plan, correct? But I think we're overthinking it. Have you ever had that feeling, when you're overthinking something, it feels productive? It really feels like we're doing something, because we're always preparing and analyzing stuff and just trying to get it right. But in reality, what is it that we're doing? We're delaying execution, guys. We're overthinking it so much and we're delaying the process. So, I was looking up overthinking and seeing if that was really a thing, if you will. So overthinking is one of the most subtle forms of what? Anybody out there know? Procrastination, right? So if you said that, that's exactly right. Procrastination, because it gives us the illusion that we're making progress. But really, when you think about it, we're not getting anywhere. We're not moving. So we keep researching. Maybe we understand it. We try to find the tools to understand it. We keep rewriting the plan over and over again. Have you ever changed that? I mean, I know I'm guilty of it. Like I say, instead of starting something, we keep saying, let me think about it. And when you've already thought about it over and over and over again. So as we sit here and seek to say, we need to get clarity, or we're trying to get down to the truth of why we're not moving. Does clarity come when we think more about it? I don't think so. I think clarity comes when we move. Anybody can relate to that? So when we execute, it sharpens the vision. So here's what that means. If you keep waiting for the perfect conditions, then you'll never start. You'll just keep going around in circles and circles and overthinking and planning and over planning, but nothing is moving. So guys, we got to have movement. So in the word, it says, well, let me tell you where it's found. Hold on, I have my notes, but let me tell you where it's found. So we are in Ecclesiastes, and it's Ecclesiastes 11 and 4. So that says, whoever watches the wind will not plant, and whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. So you ever sat there, I had never really heard this scripture that way before. But as I was writing this segment, it seemed appropriate in my research. So let me say it again. So whoever watches the wind will not plant, and whosoever watches or looks at the clouds will not reap. Have you ever had moments like that where you're just sitting there staring and you're thinking about it, and then the next day comes and you're doing the same thing, you're thinking about it? I've had moments where I caught myself doing that too, because I'm a thinker and I'm a planner. But then I keep thinking, and then I keep planning, and then I had to ask myself, what am I doing? Am I preparing to keep thinking, or am I avoiding? Because at some point, the more we think, I think that's a hiding place. In the last episode, I shared about how I wouldn't say I struggled, but I delayed myself, not on purpose. At least I didn't think it was. But I delayed myself in the release of my book because I felt like I wasn't ready, even though the book had been done, you know? So when I kept overthinking, I was hiding. You know, that those days that went by where I thought over and over again the same things, it became a hiding place. So how about we do something different? So I want you to take something from this episode, not just a thought, but I want you to take an action. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to identify. Okay, so we're going to go in steps. We're going to do a little exercise. I want you to identify what is one thing that you have been overthinking. Write it down. So as you know, I like to be practical in some of our episodes, and the only way that we're going to see clarity and put action to it is by doing, correct? So the first step I want you to do is to identify. And so what you're going to do is write one thing that you have been overthinking. Now, don't overthink this process. Just write it down. What have you been overthinking? That's this first step. And then I want you to define your next move. So we did something similar here. And you notice there's repetition. We did something similar in episode 5 in the interactive. So I want you to define what you have been overthinking, right? Just one thing. So go back and listen to episode 5 when I talked about one thing. That sometimes we want to put down the whole plan. But really, in order for us to get the big picture, we have to start baby steps. So I want you to write one thing. What is your next step? And now step 3. Here's the power right here. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? I don't want you to write soon. Deetra, I'm going to do it real soon. I promise you. I'll get to it next week. I got something to do. Why not now? Why not tomorrow? And it's okay if you have a valid why, because I'm not judging. But when are you going to do it? Write that down. Set a timeline. And I want you to be specific about it. So step 4, we're going to remove the excuse. So what have you been telling yourself that's been keeping you from doing whatever it is you wrote down in step 1 that you have been overthinking? Remove the excuse. Okay? And step 5, simple. I want you to move on it. Go back to your specific time that you wrote down. And I want you to move on it. Even if it's something small, even if it's imperfect. You know, so if you feeling like, I can't this day. Remember, remove the excuse. That was step 4. So in step 3, when you set a timeline, I want you to understand it doesn't have to be tomorrow. Set the timeline that fits you. So by setting the timeline, you're owning and you're planning, but you're owning that choice of that timeline. And then challenge yourselves to really move on that time. So again, step 5, we're moving. We are moving. Because when we execute things, that builds confidence. Not the other way around, because it's not going to come first. So when we execute, we're going to build confidence. So I'll reiterate those again. So for step 1, we're going to identify what's that one thing you've been overthinking. Step 2, we're going to define our next move. One move. Not the whole plan. We don't have to have it all figured out. But what is the next step? And then step 3, I want you to set a timeline. When are you going to do it? And be specific. Step 4, remove the excuses. Right? Remove the excuses. Now challenge that. And then step 5, we're going to actually move. Right? Because we are building confidence here. Right? So you've heard me mention my 21-day clarity in action experience. It's not a challenge. It's an experience. And if you are realizing through the activities and the interactives that we do in our episodes and you need help staying consistent, that is exactly why that experience was created. It's designed to help you move from thinking to doing intentionally. All right. So as we close, I want to leave you with this. There has been many times that I knew what to do and I had already thought it through, but it stayed in my head. It stayed in my head. I'll keep saying that. And I was overthinking it and nothing changed. So maybe that's you. Not because you don't have the answer, right? Because we have the answer. We have the tools. But simply because what? We didn't act on it. We didn't move. But just know, the moment you move, even if it's imperfect, even if it doesn't seem right or you don't have full clarity, I guarantee you everything will start to become clearer. Because you see fishes now. You've been with me for, I believe this is the 8th episode. You have been with me now for a while. And so the fishes should be showing up, right? They should be showing you what's possible. But the only way you can be fulfilled is if you execute and step into your purpose. So today, I always end with a challenge. Let's stop waiting to feel ready because we're overthinking it, right? Let's stop thinking it to death. And let's take the next step forward. Our mantra, what is it? Let's say it together. I don't wait for clarity. I move in faith, build through uncertainty, and we're going to let purpose catch up. Guys, go out there. You got this. Stop overthinking. And I want you to always remember to own your mirror. Thank you for listening to Own the Mirror, where faith and mindset come together on purpose. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.